In the cold, metallic confines of his cell, David Armstrong couldn't help but quip about the lack of interior design. The stark, alien walls reflected his sarcastic commentary, but his towering captor, whom he nicknamed Squiggles for his squiggly antenna, was less than amused. "Silence, human," Squiggles growled, his mandibles clicking in annoyance. "Commander Zorks will be here soon to begin your interrogation." David chuckled, leaning casually against the wall. "Ooh, Zorks, I'm quaking in my boots. Does he practice that menacing glare in the mirror, or is it all natural?" The cell door hissed open, revealing Commander Zorks, a being that looked like a cross between an octopus and a disco ball. "Ah, the infamous David Armstrong," Zorks gurgled, his voice sounding like garbled mouthwash underwater. "I've heard so much about you." David grinned. "All good things, I hope." Zorks's bioluminescent skin flashed. "Your capture marks the beginning of the end for your pitiful human resistance." David yawned dramatically. "Sorry, dozed off there for a second. Were you monologuing?" With a flash of angry red, Zorks's tentacles lashed out, wrapping around David's throat. As he struggled for air, a memory from 15 years earlier surfaced. Back on Earth, young David sprinted down an alley, chased by Big Mike and his gang. Stealing from the neighborhood bully wasn't his best plan, but hunger drove desperate measures. Ducking behind a dumpster, he prayed they'd pass. But Big Mike yanked him out, sneering. "You talk big for such a runt," Big Mike jeered, delivering a punch to David's stomach. As the blows rained down, David vowed to himself that one day he'd be strong enough that no one could push him around. Back in the alien cell, David's hands shot up, jabbing his thumbs into Zorks's eyes. The alien commander shrieked, dropping David to the floor. Gulping in air, David laughed. "What's wrong, Zorks? Can't handle a little rough play?" Zorks retreated, and David knew this wasn't over. He needed to escape and warn his comrades. His mind raced with plans, each one riskier than the last. But David was no stranger to impossible odds. He had faced them before and come out on top. As he formulated his escape, he couldn't help but think about his fellow soldiers. They were counting on him. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders. Failure was not an option. The cell door opened again, and 2 more guards entered. David tensed, ready for whatever came next. He knew he had to act fast, but he also knew that he couldn't do it alone. He needed allies, and he needed them now. With a swift move, David disarmed one of the guards and used the weapon to take down the other. Grabbing the keys, he unlocked his cell and stepped out into the corridor. The ship was vast, but David had a keen sense of direction. He just needed to find the control room and disable the security systems. As he moved through the ship, he encountered more aliens, each more formidable than the last. But David's training and determination saw him through. He fought with everything he had, knowing that each victory brought him one step closer to freedom. Finally, he reached the control room. Hacking into the system, he disabled the alarms and opened the cells of other human prisoners. Together, they could fight their way out. Together, they could survive. David's thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps. Zorks had returned, and he wasn't alone. The final battle was about to begin. The corridor echoed with the sounds of clashing metal and alien screams. David, now joined by a small band of freed prisoners, moved with urgency. Each step brought them closer to their goal, but also closer to Zorks and his elite guards. David glanced at his makeshift team. Each face told a story of struggle and hope. There was Maria, brilliant engineer who had been captured during a reconnaissance mission. Jason, a former pilot with unmatched combat skills. And Lena, a medic whose knowledge of alien physiology had already proven invaluable. "Stay close," David ordered. "We have to reach the main hangar. That's our way out." Maria nodded, her eyes scanning the corridor for any signs of danger. "I can rig the hangar doors to open remotely, but it will take time. We don't have much of that, Jason muttered, his grip tightening on his stolen weapon. Let's move. The group advanced, encountering resistance at every turn. The aliens were relentless, but so were the humans. Each skirmish was a reminder of what they were fighting for: their freedom, their families, their planet. As they neared the hangar, Maria accessed a terminal and began hacking into the system. "Cover me," she said, her fingers flying over the keys. David and Jason positioned themselves in front of her, ready to fend off any attackers. Lena stayed close, her medical kit at the ready in case anyone was injured. "Almost there," Maria muttered, sweat beading on her forehead. Loud clang echoed through the corridor as a squad of alien guards approached. David and Jason opened fire, taking down as many as they could. But the aliens were relentless, their numbers seeming endless. "Hurry, Maria," David urged, his voice strained from the effort of fighting. "Got it," Maria exclaimed, just as an alien lunged at her. She ducked, and Jason took the alien down with a precise shot. The hangar doors began to open, revealing a fleet of alien ships. "We need to find one that's operational," Maria said, moving towards the closest ship. David scanned the hangar, spotting a sleek, well-maintained vessel. "There," he pointed. "That one looks like it's ready to go." The group ran towards the ship, but more aliens poured into the hangar, blocking their path. "We'll never make it," Lena said, her voice tinged with despair. "Yes, we will," David said firmly. "We have to." With renewed determination, they fought their way to the ship. As they reached it, Maria quickly accessed the controls and began the startup sequence. "Get in," she shouted. David and Jason provided cover fire as Lena and the other prisoners boarded the ship. Once everyone was inside, David and Jason followed, slamming the hatch shut behind them. "Punch it, Maria," David ordered, strapping himself into a seat. The ship's engines roared to life, and they lifted off, blasting their way out of the hangar. The alien vessel shook as they accelerated, but Maria's expert piloting kept them on course. "We're not out of the woods yet," Jason warned, checking the ship's sensors. "We've got fighters incoming." David nodded, his mind racing with strategies. "We need to find a way to lose them." Maria adjusted the ship's trajectory, heading towards an asteroid field. "Hang on," she said. "This is going to get bumpy." As they entered the field, the ship weaved and dodged between the massive rocks. The alien fighters followed, but their larger, bulkier designs made it difficult for them to navigate the tight spaces. "We're losing them," Lena said, her voice filled with hope. David allowed himself a brief smile. "Good work, everyone. But we're not safe yet. We need to find a place to regroup and plan our next move." The ship emerged from the asteroid field, the alien fighters far behind. Maria set a course for a nearby moon, where they could land and make repairs. As the ship touched down, David unstrapped himself and turned to his team. "We did it, but this is just the beginning. We have to keep fighting. For Earth, for humanity." The others nodded, their faces filled with determination. They had escaped, but their mission was far from over. Together, they would find a way to defeat Orcs and his forces, no matter what it took. The moon's surface was desolate and barren, but it provided the perfect cover for the group to regroup and strategize. As Maria and Lena worked on repairing the ship, David and Jason scouted the area for any potential threats. "Looks clear," Jason said, lowering his binoculars, "but we can't stay here too long. Orcs will be looking for us." David nodded. "We need allies. Other humans, maybe even some sympathetic aliens. We can't take Orcs down alone." As they discussed their next move, a faint signal crackled over the ship's communication system. "This is Resistance Base Alpha. If anyone can hear this, please respond." David rushed to the console and keyed the mic. "This is David Armstrong. We hear you, Alpha. What's your status?" A moment of static, then a voice replied, "Armstrong, It's good to hear your voice. We're holding out, but we could use some help. Send us your coordinates, David said. We're on our way. As the coordinates came through, Maria finished the repairs. Ship's ready, she said. Let's go. The journey to Resistance Base Alpha was tense but uneventful. As they approached, David could see the makeshift fortifications and the weary faces of the soldiers holding the line. Landing the ship, David and his team disembarked, greeted by the base's commander, a grizzled veteran named Harris. David Armstrong, Harris said, shaking his hand. You're a sight for sore eyes. Likewise, Commander, David replied. What's the situation? Harris led them to a briefing room, where a map of the surrounding area was displayed. Zorx's forces are spread thin, but they're well equipped. We've been managing small victories, but we need a decisive blow. David studied the map. We have a ship and a skilled team. What we need is intel. Something that can give us an edge. Harris nodded. We've intercepted some communications. Zorx is planning something big. A weapon capable of wiping out entire cities. Then, we need to stop it, David said. What's our first move? Harris pointed to a location on the map. This outpost here. It's lightly defended, but it houses critical data on Zorx's operations. If we can infiltrate it, we might find what we need. Consider it done, David said. We'll leave at first light. As the team prepared for the mission, David took a moment to reflect. They had come far, but the road ahead was even more dangerous. Failure was not an option. Too much was at stake. Dawn broke over the barren landscape as David and his team approached the alien outpost. The structure was sleek and imposing, a stark contrast to the rugged terrain around it. Remember, David whispered, stealth is key. We get in, grab the data, and get out. Maria hacked into the outpost's security system, creating a temporary window for them to slip inside. The corridors were eerily silent, the only sound the hum of alien machinery. As they moved deeper into the facility, they encountered minimal resistance. It seemed their plan was working. Reaching the central database, Maria connected her device and began downloading the data. We've got company, Jason warned, his eyes on the scanner. Hurry up, Maria. I'm going as fast as I can, she replied, fingers flying over the keys. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. David readied his weapon, prepared to defend their position. Just as the first wave of aliens appeared, Maria shouted, Got it. Let's move. They fought their way back through the corridors, the alien forces more alert and aggressive now. Reaching the exit, they sprinted towards their ship, the sound of alarms echoing behind them. As they lifted off, David checked the data. This is it, he said. We have what we need to stop Zorx. Returning to Resistance Base Alpha, they were greeted with cheers. The data Maria had retrieved detailed Zorx's plans and the location of the weapon. We have a chance now, Harris said, his voice filled with hope. We can take the fight to Zorx. David nodded. Let's finish this. Armed with the intel, the resistance forces mobilized for a final assault on Zorx's stronghold. The alien base was heavily fortified, but they had a plan. We'll hit them from multiple fronts, David explained. Divide their forces and create chaos. While they're distracted, we'll infiltrate the main facility and disable the weapon. The battle was fierce. Explosions rocked the landscape as the resistance fighters clashed with Zorx's forces. David led his team through the chaos, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the base. As they reached the central chamber, they found the weapon, a massive alien device humming with ominous energy. We need to disable it, Maria said, scanning the controls. Can you do it? David asked, his eyes scanning the room for any threats. I can try, she replied, setting to work. As Maria worked, Zorx appeared, flanked by his elite guards. You meddling humans, he snarled. You think you can stop me? David stepped forward. "We're not thinking. We know." The final battle began. Zorx's guards were formidable, but the human spirit was stronger. David fought with everything he had, memories of Earth and his friends driving him forward. With a final, desperate push, David's team overcame the guards. Zorx, seeing his plans unravel, lunged at David. The two grappled, each fighting for control. "You can't win," Zorx hissed. "Humans are weak." David grinned, despite the pain. "We may be weak, but we never give up." With a burst of strength, David threw Zorx into the weapon, causing it to overload. The room filled with blinding light as the device imploded, taking Zorx with it. As the dust settled, David's team regrouped. The weapon was destroyed, and Zorx was gone. But the cost had been high. Many lives were lost in the battle, and the base was in ruins. "We did it," Maria said, her voice tinged with both triumph and sorrow. "But at what cost?" David looked around at his team, their faces marked with exhaustion and grief. "We did what we had to," he said, "for Earth, for our future." Returning to Resistance Base Alpha, they were met with cheers and tears. The battle was over, but the war had taken its toll. David knew their fight wasn't truly over. They had won a significant victory, but rebuilding would be a long and difficult process. With Zorx's defeat, the Resistance began to reclaim their planet. Slowly but surely, they pushed back the remaining alien forces, liberating captured territories and restoring hope to humanity. David and his team were hailed as heroes, but they knew the real heroes were the countless men and women who had fought and died for their freedom. Standing on a hill overlooking a newly rebuilt city, David reflected on their journey. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, but more importantly, they had shown the true strength of humanity, their resilience, their determination, and their unbreakable spirit. "We did it," Lena said, standing beside him. "We really did it." David nodded. "Yeah, we did. But this is just the beginning. We have a lot of work ahead of us." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the city, David felt a sense of peace. They had won their freedom, and now they would build a future worthy of their sacrifice. "To new beginnings," he said, raising a hand. "To new beginnings," his team echoed. And with that, they set off, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their resolve and strengthened by their shared victory.